Hello, I'm Max Ginsberg. Thank you for being interested in my work and asking questions. I really appreciate that. I'm going to answer the questions as best I can and succinctly, and I hope you're satisfied. And if you have more questions, just keep asking. Earlier in my career, I think if I wanted to be successful, I probably should have taken a business course and learn about business because I find that most of the success in art is usually in terms of promotion of art, even if it's terrible. But seriously, I think I would have liked to have a little more opportunity in the schools I went to develop and study realistic painting. And they were busy promoting more abstract art. What keeps me motivated and passionate is basically my feeling about people. I guess you could say, in a broad sense, about humanity. Because, and I think that's because of the way I was growing up and the education I had. My parents always stressed those human values. And in addition, I grew up feeling that in the United States, the concept of a Declaration of Independence with justice for all seemed to be important in my mind. So that is the basic idea that I've had. And in a way, that keeps me motivated, even if I'm doing a simple study of someone from life. I think of it in those terms. Well, on teaching, I feel that it's important to listen to what the students have in mind and what they feel. Um, I think it's a two-way street. Frankly, I learn a lot from students, but the idea is that they're supposed to learn from me. So it's a two-way street. So that's the bottom line. I think you have to have respect for each other. Well, in terms of my favorite paintings that I painted, I guess they would be paintings like a Bus Stop, Unemployed Online, War Pieta, Foreclosure. But then there are many other paintings that I did that are not such lofty subjects and not so complicated, which are also important, but I just don't remember the names of them. It could have been a simple figure, somebody posing, or it could also have been something I did from photographs, because very often those paintings were more candid and observe the real gestures of people and places. Oh, well, I think some of the more outstanding ones of the covers are not exactly always the romance covers, but they're just illustrations in general. For example, the painting that I did of the Friends, I find that was a good painting. Of the actual romance covers, I can't really name some because I don't remember the names exactly. But some of the covers had a flair, and I enjoyed that to a degree. I enjoyed the color relationships in the background. I just happened to be seeing one in front of me that happens to be on an easel, and that is, well, there was something in the solidity of the figures. I like the way the guy's head is painted, and I also especially like the background that had kind of lavenders and pinks in it that made it quite romantic. Well, that's twofold. Part of the realism is the reality of the subject, and that's the reality of the world that I see or that I feel. The other reality is the form, which I also try to keep realistic because I think it's more meaningful and it's more also unique. When I speak about painting the figure or a head, I talk about the the qualities in there that are unique in the sense that you're not going to see them again, that you don't see them in specifically that relationship. So that uniqueness is important to me. But then there is also the realism of the subject. So, for example, in Bus Stop, there is a reality in the way I've painted people and in the way they're waiting for a bus. That's a reality is important. Just like the old masters never saw Christ getting crucified or dying in a pieta. In the same way, I never was in Iraq to see the dying of a soldier. But many things you have a strong feeling for, so you have a humanity, and that has to play a role in the reality. Values, like everything else in the painting, has to do with proportion. Proportion is the bottom line. So when you're trying to see how the values look, you see how one value looks in proportion to another in the thing that you're painting. And then you have to keep that in proportion so that a light doesn't look too light against something else, or a dark is emphasizing a light, and then you have a different kind of relationship. Illustration is done essentially with a photo shooting and then painting on the painting. But let me go through it. I'll tell you. First, the art director gives you an assignment, and based on that, you then produce a layout. So the art director has an idea of what it is you're going to do, and they can sometimes make corrections. Uh, then, even before that layout, and sometimes after, you do a photo shooting. And there you'll have models and costumes, and they'll take certain poses. So you explain what you want, like a director in a movie would explain, and the people would go through the motions of performing that romance image that you're asking them to do. Then you have the photographs or the images in a camera, and you project. But before you project, of course, you have to have a panel ready. So the panel used to be stretch canvas, but then I began to work with illustration board, which I gessoed, and then I drew in pencil the projection of the image that I wanted to paint, and in the place I wanted to paint. And then I would start painting on the illustration board in my alla prima way, but I would look at a photograph of the image that I was painting. I would also have images or references for background. It depends on what I needed. And that's basically the approach that I would take, and just develop the painting until I get the finish that I wanted. Well, that question, I can't answer that directly because I see people sometimes doing paintings or artwork in relation to social justice, which I do agree with. But then again, the manner in which they do it isn't the type of realism that to me is realist painting in the tradition of the old masters. And for me, that's important. So I don't know what the future is going to be, and I see kind of variations, ups and downs, in terms of this direction. Some people I've seen, there's a friend of mine uh, who paints out west, and he paints farm workers. His name is Warren Chang, and he does a marvelous job in painting these people doing the work. Now, that to me is an example of this kind of work that I'm talking about, which is dealing with social issues. Other people don't often do it because and do it realistically, because I think too often the fear of not selling the work takes too much preference, precedence. So I feel that that's unfortunate. So it's hard to know what the future is going to be. Whatever it is, I think people have to be committed and have the courage of their convictions. And of course, at the same time, have to have some kind of an income to pay the rent. I don't always keep my brush out of the coffee. Sometimes I put the brush in the coffee and then realize that the painting's starting to look like too much yellow ochre. Thank you very much again.